That it was just a matter of time before the old Mikey that we know and tolerate came back. That's enough.
You know, for a bunch of guys from New York, I think we did pretty good for our first time at high tea. Cheers.
I guess you cheers, huh?
Yeah, I think today was a lot of fun. Riding those bikes was awesome, and I think our first high tea went all right.
All in all, it was a great time.
Your glasses, jackass.
Un grup de visători care s-au hotărât să urce cel mai înalt munte, fără să se cunoască, dar cu un vis comun pentru care sunt gata să-și dea viața. Fiecare suferind de un handicap fizic care ar putea pune în pericol întreaga echipă. Merită oare Everest prețul pe care îl vor plăti? O dovadă de fermitate sau nebunie curată? Cel mai înalt munte din lume, așa cum este văzut de membrii expediției. Nu ați fost niciodată atât de aproape. Everest, dincolo de limite, în fiecare miercuri de la 21 pe Discovery. Trăiește fiecare expediție la cote maxime cu Lion.
A report that'll have you bristling with excitement. But first, the technical name for it is a residential load center, but people usually call it a fuse box. This enclosed metal panel is usually placed on a wall. It contains circuit breakers that distribute, protect, and control the home's lighting and power. This North American load center consists of up to 40 circuits. Each one has one or two breakers. Each breaker powers several outlets in the home. First, a powerful press pounds a sheet of steel into what's called a U-channel. At nearly a meter long, 35 centimeters wide and 10 centimeters deep, it's part of what's called the tub, the load center's main casing. A worker then attaches steel components made earlier, called tub ends. A spot welding machine fuses them to close off both ends of the tub. An aluminium strip that's 100 meters long and 15 centimeters wide is fed into a stamping press. The press cuts the strip into 50 centimeter long segments called bus bars. It bends each bus bar 10 times, creating 5 centimeter segments called stabs. The breakers will later snap onto these stabs. Next, a worker inserts each bus bar into a plastic component called a base pan. The base pan insulates the bus bar. This prevents us from getting electrocuted. Another press then inserts a plastic rivet, securing the bus bar to the base pan. The worker installs two components called neutral bars in the base pan. The neutral bars conduct electricity between the circuit and the wall socket. Next comes the main breaker. Its maximum capacity is 200 amps. If demand exceeds capacity, it will trip, turning off all power in the home. It's tightened to a precise degree. Labels are added, and installation screws are placed inside an envelope. Next, the worker puts the base pan assembly into the tub and secures the neutral bar with a copper bonding strap to earth it and prevent electrocution. Another component is added, one of two earthing bars. These earth each circuit. The breakers simply snap onto the stabs, making them easier to remove and replace if needed. Inside the breaker, several components interact to enable the flow of electricity. One is the load terminal, the entry point for the live current. Robot A, a circular machine, assembles it and other breaker parts along its 16 workstations. Another breaker component is the bimetal assembly. It's an alloy of two metals and a magnet. It trips the breaker when there's an overload or short circuit. Robot A welds a strip of silver, which is conductive, to what's called the contact arm. Robot A then positions the arm for welding with 5 centimeter long segments of braided copper wire. Copper because it's conductive as well as pliable. The robot fuses the copper wire to the contact arm and the bimetal assembly. The wire will flex with the arm to touch what's called the line terminal. This contact permits the electrical current to flow. Robot A deposits the welded parts into the breaker casings, called bases. This automated production line functions 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it produces a breaker every 3 seconds. That is breakneck speed. Another machine, called Robot B, stamps the number of amps on each breaker handle. Then it connects a spring to link the contact arm to another part, called the cradle. When there's an overload, the bimetal assembly causes the cradle to pivot and trip the breaker. Robot B deposits the spring and cradle into the base, then closes the base with a cover. This demonstration shows how moving the breaker handle triggers the mechanism that will enable the flow of electricity. If power demand exceeds the breaker's maximum capacity by 35%, the bimetal assembly trips the breaker and cuts the power. They cap off the load center with a metal cover called a trim. The warning label on it provides safety information and instructions. It's now ready for use, but remember, this fuse box must be installed by a qualified electrician. In 206 BC, a Chinese general flew a kite over a wicked emperor's palace. He marked the line to measure the distance, then reeled it in. His small army then dug a tunnel into the palace courtyard, launching a surprise attack that conquered the emperor. Let's go fly a kite. Today's two-line kite, as the name implies, has 2 lines to pilot it. This kite is made mainly of a lightweight nylon fabric that is waterproof and fade resistant. The fabric is less than 1 millimeter thick, so it's reinforced with nylon mesh to reduce ripping. The kite's other components include nylon and elastic cords and straps, fittings made of leather, rubber and aluminium, and plastic and carbon rods. The kite maker starts with a pattern made out of pressed wood. She marks out a piece of the fabric, and with a few bricks to hold the fabric in place, cuts it diagonally. In sewing terms, that's called cutting on the bias. This will stretch the fabric and help it fly. She cuts more pieces of fabric, this time in a different color. This kite has 8 fabric parts that fit together like a puzzle to create a 2.5 meter wingspan. The kite's left and right sides are mirror images, so there's only 4 different shapes to cut. From start to finish, it takes one worker about 2 hours to make this model, called the Dragonfly. First, the kite maker sews the longest part, called the belly, to the other parts. She double stitches with heavy-duty nylon thread to help the kite withstand winds of up to 35 kilometers an hour. She makes tiny incisions along the belly's curved edge, so she can fold it and sew in tension line. Tension line is a type of nylon cord she'll sew into all the seams of the kite's lower sections. It'll give the kite some structure and help keep it rigid while airborne. The kite maker secures each line with a knot, which can later be loosened or tightened to adjust the kite's overall tension. The kite maker uses straps made of durable yet flexible plastic to line the middle and the edges of the wings. The straps strengthen the kite, enabling it to survive crashes into trees and rocks. After all, what goes up must come down. Next, the kite maker sews a piece of leather, called a fitting, onto the plastic strap. It's made of leather to protect the kite's structural joints, such as the nose of the kite. It gets a leather patch as well. The kite maker uses a saw to cut the 10 carbon rods to size. They're 6 millimeters in diameter and range in length from 18 to 81.5 centimeters. They form the kite's skeleton. They're the most likely part of the kite to break in an accident. But if they do break, it's easy to replace them. A variety of molded plastic, rubber and aluminium fittings serve a dual purpose. They join the rods together and keep them from falling out of their sleeves. Now, the kite maker attaches a nylon cord, called the bridle, to the fitting that joins the rods on the wing's leading edge. The bridle is the kite's rudder, steering the kite to the left or right. The bridle comes off easily if you need to replace the rods. The kite maker now attaches tension lines to two plastic components called arrows. They're located at the kite's wingtips. She ties elastic bungee cords through the arrows to hold the tension lines in place. This makes all the fabric parts taut enough to fly. Next, she attaches the bridle to the center rod, the spine of the kite. She inserts the rod into its protective leather pouch at the nose. The other rods are inserted into both sides of the wing. These give the wing its curved aerodynamic shape and help the kite stay aloft. Finally, additional rods under the wing provide more structure and support. These rods spread the kite and help keep it open. And now, you've got yourself a handmade wonder. It's time for this kite to take to the air. Coming up on How It's Made, eyeglass frames, a real spectacle, and toothbrushes. Good, clean fun. See you after the break.
Astăzi mă simt foarte norocos. Trebuie doar să mușc din joie și m-am scos. Trimit acum un SMS la 1827. Mai spun că azi norocul e numai al meu, pentru că merit un bebeu.
Îmi ador silueta. Mă mândresc cu suplețea mea.
Sunt încântată de corpul meu.
Suntem mulțumiți de greutatea noastră.
Solano te ajută să-ți menții silueta și să-ți afirmi stilul fără rețineri. Meriți un moment de răsfăț printr-un gust delicios cu puține calorii. Acum într-o prezentare mai elegantă, ce-ți va încânta simțurile. Meriți un moment de plăcere. Meriți Solano.
Trimite SMS cu codul de pe ambalajul Joy la 1827. Se câștigă 7 BMW-uri seria 1 și 70 de ceasuri Timberland pe zi.
La început a fost cuvântul, dar câteva secunde mai târziu au început să apară lucruri. O grămadă de lucruri. Și dintr-o dată, totul a început să se rotească din ce în ce mai repede. O nebunie curată. Creație divină? Sau a unor oameni talentați? Cine se ascunde în spatele acestor lucruri? Întrebau cei mai puțini informații, deși aveau răspunsul la îndemână. Unii dintre ei s-au străduit să găsească un răspuns. Chiar așa. Cum se fabrică? De luni până vineri, de la 20 pe Discovery Channel. Le plac la nebunie mașinile rapide. Trăiesc la limită. Nu se tem de nimic. Cele mai noi mașini, teste, experimente ieșite din comun. Cu asta se ocupă. Unii spun că ar fi chiar mai bun decât... Dar mai bine dați-vă voi cu părerea. În viteza a 5-a, în fiecare marți de la 23 pe Discovery.
Welcome back to How It's Made. Glasses, or spectacles, don't merely correct vision. They're also a fashion statement. Whether you prefer plastic frames or metal ones, they come in so many different colors, sizes and shapes that you're guaranteed to find a pair to suit you. Metal frames come in a multitude of shapes, from ordinary to extraordinary. It all starts with a computerized system called a 3-axis eye-winding machine. A set of rollers pulls metal wire from a spool. Then, with software-driven precision, the machine bends the wire into the shape of the frame, then cuts the end free. The lenses will fit into pre-cut grooves on the inside. A small part called the insert connects the two ends of the eye frame, holding them closed around the lens. To attach the insert, they put it in a clamp, then position the eye frame just above it. They apply a cleaning agent called flux, then filler wire. An electrical current heats the wire, metal frame and insert until they all melt and fuse together. Now they do the same to what's called the screw hinge, the piece that attaches the arm to the eye frame. Again, electrically generated heat fuses the hinge to the insert. This process, similar to soldering, is called brazing. Now for the bridge. A small press bends a piece of metal into shape. Then, a worker aligns it with the eye frames in an assembly jig. This ensures the frames are perfectly straight. Brazing again melds everything together. Next comes the piece above the bridge, called the brow bar. An automated machine cuts metal wire to pieces the right length, then carves grooves on the ends to enable the brow bar to fit snugly onto the top of the frames. It then bends each piece to the right shape. The brow bar now goes into position. A little flux to remove any dust or dirt that might prevent the metal from fusing properly. Then they braze the brow bar to the frame. Now come little hooks called pad arms. They hold small pads under the bridge that cushion your nose. A worker fuses the pad arms to the frames, using the same brazing process as before. Now for the arms that attach to the eye frames on one end and sit on your ears on the other. The industry calls these arms temples because they're at the level of your temples when you wear the glasses. After stamping the size and company name on the inside, they fuse a hinge to each one and press a plastic sleeve on the other end. They set the arms momentarily aside while they position the lenses in the groove of the eye frame. A screw keeps everything tight and intact. Now they screw an arm onto each hinge. The arms on most models have curled ends that hook over the ears for a more secure and comfortable fit. A special machine called a mechanical cam applies pressure to bend the plastic sleeves to a 45-degree angle. Functional and fashionable, these metal frame glasses are definitely eye-catching. The Chinese invented the first toothbrush around 1600, but it wasn't until about 1780 in England that it became a mass-produced item. Its bristles came from the necks and shoulders of pigs. Getting those teeth clean must have been a real swine. These toothbrushes should make you want to flash your pearly whites in appreciation, if you consider that thousands of years ago people used twigs to clean their teeth. Today's toothbrushes begin as little plastic pellets. A vacuum sucks them up into an injection mold machine. The machine melts the pellets into a kind of plastic dough, then injects it into a stainless steel mold, forming 10 toothbrush handles at once. The head of each handle has up to 56 holes for bristles. This machine generates 10 handles every 35 seconds. That works out at 27,000 handles in 24 hours. Now, they melt coloured rubber pellets. They pipe the liquid rubber into the mould with the white toothbrush handles, then press the rubber onto the handles to form a grip. So now, you have a toothbrush you can really hang on to. No dropping this one in the sink. They use this semi-clear plastic to produce another type of grip, one that's softer and more pliable. These nylon fibres will form the bristles. A robotic arm pats them down so they sit evenly. Then, faster than you can blink an eye, the machine feeds the bristles into the holes in the head of the toothbrush handle. This machine works at a blurring speed, filling 900 holes per minute. And it operates with incredible precision. Here's the bristle selection process in slow motion. The machine selects between 22 and 24 bristles for each hole in the brush. With 56 holes per toothbrush, that adds up to over 1,300 bristles for each brush. This fully automated system works faster than any human ever could. And here's another advantage. A human hand rarely has to touch the bristles, and so the process is incredibly hygienic. Wondering what holds the bristles in place? Wire. The machine bends the fibres in half, anchoring them to the brush with wire in the middle. Now it's time for a brush cut. These blades trim the bristles to the same length. Another set of blades sculpts different types of edges, depending on the model in production. These may look like spinning tops, but they're rotating discs coated with diamond dust, a mild abrasive. They sand the edges of the bristles to produce a particular finish. For instance, the bristles can be straight or zigzagged. Different finishes have different tooth cleaning effects. You may have noticed that the bristles vary in colour. This is purely aesthetic, a nifty colour combination to make the toothbrush look smarter. And of course, the machine knows exactly which colour goes where. So you end up with a two-toned brush like this one. Every so often, the factory pulls a toothbrush off the assembly line for a spot check. A robotic arm tugs at the bristles to make sure they're secure enough. And if the brush passes the test, the rest of the production run is cleared for sale. A robotic system packages the brushes and they come right off the line, ready for shipping. Ensuring that cheesy grin will always dazzle and delight. So, whether you're seeking a little energy, or looking for a flight of fancy, or hoping to make a real spectacle of yourself,
Urmărește Ora Zero, află care a fost deznodământul unei misiuni imposibile și cum explorarea spațiului a suferit o mare pierdere la Discovery Channel.
Iritația de după bărbierit te împinge la gesturi disperate?
Acum ai o soluție mai bună. Balsamul hidratant Nivea Formen de ultimă generație cu formula Care Protect îți calmează și îți reface rapid pielea iritată, iar tu te simți excelent instantaneu. Noul aftershave balsam Nivea Formen.
Ți-ai pus dolce?
Da, săptămâna trecută.
Și? Cum e să fii dolce?
Cum să-ți explic? Ce-ți place ție mai mult și mai mult pe lumea asta?
Prăjiturile, normal.
Imaginează-ți că ai putea să ai toate prăjiturile din lume, dar absolut toate. Toate culorile, toate gusturile, toate felurile. Și ai putea să le mănânci fără să pui un gram pe tine. Așa e dolce.
Cât costă?
4,64 euro pentru Dolce Variety. Instalare și 6 luni gratuite. Detalii la 930 și în magazinele Rom Telecom sau ale partenerilor. Dolce. Televiziune digitală totală.
Nou, gelul de ras Nivea Formen pentru cea mai ușoară alunecare cu tehnologia Ultra Glide. Depășește limitele bărbieritului. Numai de la Nivea Formen.
Cu Alpha Open de la Alpha Bank, iei bani odată și încă o dată și încă o dată, iei de câte ori vrei tu, fără noi documente. Alpha Open, creditul de nevoi personale deschis oportunităților continue. Alpha Bank, evoluăm împreună.
Lipsite de griji, aventuroase sau dificile, începuturile sunt cele mai importante. Pedigree Junior îi ajută să crească sănătoși și puternici încă de la început, datorită formulei cu 30% proteină și extra calciu, pentru un start bun în viață.
Dinții sensibili înseamnă când cineva încearcă să mănânce o înghețată sau să bea o cafea fierbinte, să simtă o durere. Durerea este vie, de scurtă durată. A nu trata dinții sensibili poate fi de uneori un risc destul de mare. Problemele se pot agrava, se poate intra într-un cerc vicios. Recomand Sensodyne. Pacienții ar trebui să folosească Sensodyne de 2 ori pe zi, dimineața și seara. După o perioadă de timp de la utilizare, au remarcat diferența mare în ceea ce privește sensibilitatea, în sensul ameliorării acesteia.
Oare cum fac ciocolata Milka atât de fină?
Hai, prietene! Cu cât laptele ajunge mai repede, cu atât ciocolata este mai fină!
E atât de fină pentru că se face aici, la înălțime, unde e liniște și pace. Lapte proaspăt din Alpi și o extra porție de pasiune. De aceea ciocolata Milka e atât de fină.
Super călătorie!
Super fină!
Unul dintre șerpași a murit. Un alpinist